Every morning from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, followed by a Share What You Did wrap-up chat, during which that is when I summarize what I get done during the 2 hours that we're here together and respond to all comments made on both Twitch and YouTube. So I'm going to go here and share my screen. Feel free to keep me in the background as you work on whatever you are working on for your morning writing today. And you can also feel free to read along whatever I'm working on as I am working on it. You'll see that I'm working in multiple tabs rather than multiple windows. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and if I can see a live chat while I'm writing, it distracts me from my writing. That's part of the reason the wrap up Share What You Did chat is, a wrap up chat. It happens at the end because I do want to hear about what projects you're working on and to work with you on any questions that you have regarding the creative process, the writing process, your projects, my projects. I want to hear all of it, and I want to work with you to help you be a better writer and help myself be a better writer. But I just can't be having those conversations and writing at the same time. Sometimes I'll talk to myself about those things as I migrate from one particular project to the next during my morning writing. But on the whole, I'm not going to be looking at the chat windows really till the end. So I know that it's an expectation that when someone is live streaming their work, that they're going to be able to see the chat room and interact with you, particularly on Twitch. That is the anticipation. But that is not how I work my page at this time. And part of that is because while I do have so few subscribers now, I don't want to set a precedent for being able to see the chat window and then take it away later. I just want everyone to be comfortable and to know how it is we're going to be hanging out and working together. All right. So that gets the YouTube video all set. And now I can go to the next task for myself. You might want to adjust the volume on this video later when I get to my final task that I have listed for myself to work on in these 2 hours that we have together. Should I just let this run out? I'm just going to let these run out. I'm going to let these run their course, actually. Yep. Or what I could do look at that. That's great. That is great. Okay. Because that's actually for the Percovie. All right. As a reminder, in case, as a reminder to those who have been following along the last couple of days, and as new information for the people who are new, I work in tabs, as you can see, so I can't see the chat. I'm actually pulling up yesterday's video to check something. Because I have been working on a song the last couple of days as a boon. Oh, Rosie, clean up your desk. As a boon for an article that will be published on the 30th. Which is what today's the 29th, so it'll be published tomorrow on thegoldengooseeggs.com. And that article will be published tomorrow, and then 10 days later, I plan on posting this little ditty I'm writing somewhere. And so if you are keeping me in the background of whatever you're working on as white noise, now would be the time to turn down the volume so that I do not disturb your work. So I'm just going now and trying to review the melody for myself that I landed on yesterday so that I can get back into the swing of writing this song. And I am going to be singing as I write. So again, if you're keeping me in the background as white noise, now is the time to turn down the volume because I'm going to start singing to myself very shortly. And I will see you for the wrap-up chat and respond to all comments at 11 o'clock. So we still have an hour and 5 minutes to go for that. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoof left. Each act of kindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is, and it was what it was. All right, so we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. What we do. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Each act of kindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is. It was what it was. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Every lead followed and every hoop leapt. Each act of kindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is. It was what it is. What it is. It was what it was. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every leap followed and every loop left. Each act of kindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is. It was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every leaf followed and every leaf left. It is what it is. It was what it was. Okay. So I've got the melody back. Just Great. Now I can actually, you know, argue the dang thing. We followed and every it is what it is. It was what it was. We are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our heads, each word on our lips. We are what we do. We are what we've done. It is what it is. It was what it was. Every lead followed and every hoop led. Each act of blindness, each well-meaning trap. It is what it is. It was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. We are what we've done. It is what it is, and it was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Life is your own, and my life is mine. Accept the things you cannot change. Accept the things you cannot change. Accept the things you cannot change. Accept financial mistakes. Fate. Everyone living heads to the same place. Everyone living heads to the same place. You don't have to take. Everyone living heads to the same place. The journey you've taken the path you've taken, the path you've taken, you don't. The path you've taken, you don't have to keep. That sounds more. Any path taken, any path taken heads to the same place. Everyone living, your life is your own, and my life is mine. Everyone living heads to the same place. Any path taken heads to the same place. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. What if like is your own, and my life is mine. Everyone living heads to the same place. Any path taken heads to the same place. Any path taken leads to the same place. Everyone living, the whole human race. Everyone living, the whole human race. The whole human race. Any path taken leads to the same place. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. do. We are what we've done. The present is just the past in disguise. Call it a curse or embrace as a prize. We are what we do. We are what we've done. shadow does cast everything. Everything golden a shadow does cast. Everything golden a shadow does cast. Golden a shadow does cast. Always remember that this too shall pass. It is what it is. This too shall pass is more about acceptance, courage to change. I think it's just clouds cast in the skies. Call it a curse or embrace as a prize. We are what we do. We are what we've done. So the choice is to change. We are what we do. We are what we've done. The present is just the past in disguise. Call it a curse or embrace as a prize. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. Everyone living has choices to make. The path you were taking, you don't have to take. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. It is what it is. It was what it was. Nothing will change if you don't change your mind. And change it. It all can change. It all can change if you first change your mind. Can change if you first change your mind. It all can change if you first change your mind. Make a clean break. Make a clean break. To your memory, be kind. It is what it is. It was what it was. It is what it is. It was what it was. It all can change it. Oh. It is what it is. It was what it was. It all can change if you first change your mind. Make a clean break to your memories, be kind. Memory, be kind. It is what it is. It was what it was. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. Everyone living has choices to make. The path you were taking, you don't have to take. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. We are what we do. We are what we will. It is what it is. What will be, will be. Is what it is. What will be, will be. Your life is your own, and my life is mine. We are what we do. We are what we will. something to consider. Are what we do, we are what we've done. Every small kindness and every misstep, each thought in our head, each word on our lips, we are what we do. We are what we've done. We are what we do. We are what we've done. The present is just the past in the sky. Call it a curse or embrace as a prize. We are what we do. We are what we've done. Are what we do. We are what we did well. Choosing your battles. Battles one day at a time. Choosing our battles one day at a time. We are what we do. We are what we build. Mountain will pass, on which we will climb. Mountain to pass, mountain will pass, on which we will climb. We are what we do. We are what we do. We sing our battles one day at a time. Which mountain will pass and which we will climb. Will pass and which we will climb. We are what we do. We are what we will. Alright, that brings us to 11:01, which means it's time for me to start doing the wrap-up chat. So, for those of you who aren't familiar or need reminding, I'm Rose Music, your live stream writing accountability partner, and for the wrap-up chat, what I like to do is give you a brief summary of what I got done in case you weren't reading along as I was doing it, and then respond to all comments made on both YouTube, got a comment over here, and on Twitch, got a comment over here. So first we'll do the brief summary in case you weren't reading along, and then I will respond to those two comments. So what all I got done is this. I was going to buffer Narratemes, but instead of putting Narratemes on buffer, I put my most recent articles from the goldengooseeggs.com and their boons into buffer, because those need to get shared with more people. Those are really cool. I spent a good amount of time on those, and people should see them and read them and enjoy them. Then I went to write my daily blog post, and instead of writing a daily blog post, I took a blog post that I had previously submitted for publication. I had previously submitted to a publication on Medium, of which I am a contributing writer. It had not apparently been accepted and published there, so I decided to go ahead and just publish it myself as a blog post for today. So I did that. Then I went into my Narratemes big file and I edited the recognition lesson and the exposure lesson, which go hand in hand together, and share a worksheet, which will come in a reader update I'll be writing tomorrow. Then I wrote a journaling prompt on the theme of intuitive logic or trusting yourself, which I framed in order to also tie in with the lessons on recognition and exposure, since it'll be published on day 100 of our 100 Days of Morning Writing. So, and that'll be around the time that little group of 4 days where I'm sharing those two lessons on Inkshares. And so I also went ahead and scheduled that journaling prompt in the Facebook group to go out on April 19th. And then I went back to work on the Red Shoes boon, which was all the little singing to myself you may have heard when you popped on. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at the comments. On YouTube, Paul Kemp says, "Hey Rose, just catching the back end. Hope the song is going okay." Does seem to be going well. Polychem says, do you have a 5-year plan or some kind of time frame for your writing related to your ambitions? Or do you like to live more day by day or day to day? I actually am between the two. So what I do is I don't do 5-year plans because so very much can change in 5-year plans. Can change over the course of 5 years. There's just too many variables to account for in order to effectively plan 5 years ahead. And also in terms of goal setting, and this is where I do set a plan for myself. In terms of goal setting, when people set goals for themselves with a deadline that is more than 90 days out, their chances of accomplishing that goal drop. They take a nosedive. And I think that has to do, and this is something that they've studied in different productivity and goal setting research, that 90 days seems to be seems to be the edge point. The exception being things like doing a small task for 100 days or 1,000 days, because those days have sort of romantic significance from their linguistic history. So we put more inherent value to something that takes 100 or 1,000 days, so we're able to push ourselves for a number of days if the number itself has significance to our subconscious mind. But with 90 days, that seems to be the average cutoff point for when people can really stick to a long-term goal. And I think this has to do with the fact that we are physical creatures, the fact that we're still affected by the seasons and the weather, that we see it rainy and we're like, I'm just going to take it easy today. That it gets to that it's a bright sunny day and we want to go outside and we want to soak up the sun and be active. That it's winter and people experience seasonal affective disorder because they're spending so much time indoors. We are seasonal creatures. And so I believe that 90 days has to do with this season. It feels more immediate if it's happening within the next 90 days, if it's happening within the season at hand. Whereas beyond that, it doesn't feel immediate. It doesn't feel like something that's happening right now. That feels like a next stage in our life. That just putting something beyond 90 days triggers something in us biologically that makes us physically feel that there is something else we need to be doing right now before we can work on that thing that's farther ahead in the future. So I work on a 90-day time frame. So if you actually look at the name of this video, Morning Writing 1.079, that's because this is the first round of 100 days of morning writing that I've ever done, and we're on day 79 of those 100 days. Have not missed a day. Technology has not always agreed with me in terms of the streaming, but I have not missed a day of showing up. And all of that is archived on YouTube for anyone who's watching on Twitch, and I'll get to the Twitch comments in just a moment. So 100 days, it has significance. It's significant to me because I am a writer of fairy tales. I write about fairy tales and I write including fairy tales. Now, in terms of do I keep a time frame with the writing or living more day to day? Paul Kemp says, here's a fun one. Can you tell us one fact about yourself that A, you're willing to share, and B, would surprise us? Would surprise you? A fact I'm willing to share that would be surprising. Well, since you're really only seeing me from the shoulders up, there is one thing that you might find surprising because I don't think I've shared this before. Just a minute, because this is visual. This is visual. So I want to make sure that I have the appropriate visual aid for this. Okay, you ready for this? I own 4 pairs of brightly colored cowboy boots. So I brought one from each pair. And the reason I own these brightly colored cowboy boots is because when I was in college and I had to take a chemistry class, I was told to get leather shoes to wear to chemistry class in case we ended up dealing with any chemicals that might spill and chew through the shoes. Having leather shoes, it's a little tougher for the chemicals that you use in a chemistry class to burn through, so you have time typically to get the shoe off before the chemical can eat through and get to your foot. So it's a safety procedure that you wear leather shoes in a chem lab. And I was in Marshall's one day and I saw a pair of bright green cowboy boots that had this inlay of a white cactus, and it was so beautiful, but they only had one pair because it was Marshall's and it was too small, so there was nothing I could do about it. But I decided, that's it, I need to get cowboy boots in order to meet this dress code requirement for class. And I searched everywhere. I could not find a pair of green cowboy boots with a white cactus inlay anywhere online. But what I did find was sheplers.com. And for $50, you can get your own pair of brightly colored cowboy boots. But I went for these 4 colors because the little seams here are contrasting. So the orange and the green boots have the white contrast, and then the purple and the teal have a black contrast piping. And, you know, I wanted them to be a little, like a dash spiffier. So I have 4 pairs of brightly colored cowboy boots. And when I used to teach Sunday school, and I say Sunday school because that's easier to understand than catechism. Back when I was a catechist teaching catechism to catechumens, because that's how that sentence goes, it was a summer program, so we only met during a couple of Sundays during the school year, but we were there for a week and a half each summer. And my students, because of my brightly colored cowboy boots, nicknamed me the Sheriff because they were all Whovians, which is just a real joy and a real treasure, and I'm real happy that they did that. Paul Kemp says, that fact was perfect. Great. I'm going to duck into Twitch for a second, see what comments we got going on here. Forces of Evil Book says, morning, hope you're having a great day. I'm working on a new near-future murder mystery story right now. Dang, that sounds cool. Near-future murder mystery. Forces of Evil Book asks, what are you going to do when the 100 days are up? Are you going to just take a break from streaming, or are you going to immediately jump into the next timed challenge? I will continue streaming when the 100 days are up. I won't be numbering those days. I'll just be doing it. I won't begin the next 100 days until I have... I can show you visually how I'll decide when it's time. All right, so coming over here and folder on quests. All right, so when I work on a project, so many folders. When I work on a project, there are different sprints involved. There are different checklists of things that need to get done. Waiting for a thing to load so I can go to a different page in this database to show you. So when I was working on 31 Days of Narratemes, first I just got everything, you know, the general lessons listed out with plans for... So this was when I initially wrote each lesson for 31 Days of Narratemes and created the worksheets that go along with them. Then the first round of editing the lessons and making them all spiffy and creating these intros in each section was round 2, and editing the journaling pages if it was necessary based on what was the editing that happened in the individual lessons. And then I started plotting out for the final edits, which would also decide when things get published on Inkshares. So I actually can check off these things for today. And so the one just means that I got it done. Also looks the most like a check mark of any number that I could be using there. So I write down all the different sections that need to get done. And then I use these columns right next to it as my check marks. This is an equation adding up all these different columns together. So it's just the ones. The equation in here, you see, I highlighted all the columns, all the squares that could possibly need a check mark for this project, and then filled in the pieces so that it's going to add them up. And then this actually counts all the pieces, everything that gets written, so that I know what the total count needs to be and what the number completed is so far, and then a little equation there showing me how much more I have to get done. I am so close to being done with this last bit of editing. Now, then I get real tricky and I feed those numbers into here. So you see this says scripts B3. And what that is, go over here to scripts. Scripts B3 is what's needed. So in my ETC, I am pulling for these numbers as chapters to finish, Inkshares to finish, in there. Those are the what is needed left from this page. So needed 5, ETC 5. And then I have these set up into little equations with today's date. So everything gets added up based on what is left and the rate of work that I am doing or could potentially be doing. And that gives me this ETC here. ETC stands for estimated time of completion. So based on what I've gotten done so far, the estimated time for completion, if I do just the minimum amount of work today, or the minimum amount of work, which would be 1 lesson a day, I'll be done April 3rd. If I continue my general rate of 2 a day, I'll be done of 1 or 2 a day based on a then I'll be done by the end of the month. I'll be done before March is done, which will be nice. And then I can just concentrate on formatting everything into pretty PDFs, because if you've seen my Inkshares project at all, you will see I have sold exactly 1 copy. So pre-selling hasn't gone to plan, but pre-selling hasn't gone to plan, but there is interest. There are people who like the sound of what I'm doing, so I am going to make a PDF available. And I actually have the last couple of days been considering whether or not to make that PDF a small online course and add some videos. But as I was completing each section, I was tracking the estimated time of completion using soft and hard dates based off Plan A's and Plan B. And once I know the general, I work more to an estimated time of completion than to a deadline. When I work to a deadline, the pressure that puts on my brain to get it done makes it less likely that I will succeed in getting it done. Studies have shown that certain deadlines are not good. certain project deadlines don't work as effectively as they could, because when you're working on something and you're working to a deadline, then you're focusing on the deadline, and that's taking up brain space away from actually getting the work done. So I work with an estimated time of completion rather than a deadline. So I use this graph in order to figure out, all right, so the rate of work that I'm doing now, how long is this going to take? When am I going to be done by? Does it make sense to schedule, to schedule a 100-day sprint of online writing, or do a 90 days. This 100 days of writing, the first 10 were the days that the Inkshares campaign was in draft mode. The next 90 days were the 90 days of campaigning. So that's what I've been working on. And I work better with an estimated time of completion, specifically because of my obsessive compulsive disorder. When I was a kid and did not know that I had OCD, I did not know just how much having those homework deadlines was actually tripping me up. Use words, Rose. It's okay to use words. It's done. It's over. You're not in school anymore, so it's not like there's homework due anywhere. There isn't. I could not get homework done. I did very poorly in school specifically because I could not get homework done because I had OCD, and nobody knew I had OCD, so nobody knew how to help me get my homework done. Accountability practices such as morning writing, that's actually a big part of the reason why I did this, is I'm not just streaming for the sake of streaming. I need to be held accountable. And I learned on accident that having a shared workspace situation, being in a study hall, hanging out in the student center, where some kids would, the student ministry center specifically when I was at Newman, in between classes, because a lot of kids hung out there between classes, just being in a space where everybody has textbooks and they're all, casually talking to each other, but also taking time to quietly just get stuff done. Going to a library can also be helpful, but there are times that I want that freedom to talk to myself and yell at myself, because sometimes I just yell random bits of dialogue without any context whatsoever. If you follow me on Twitter, you will see some of that dialogue, because sometimes I'll just yell something ridiculous at myself and I need to share it with somebody somehow because it's really good, and also I want a record of it so I can use it someday. A couple of weeks back, I yelled at myself really loudly. I am your God, not your babysitter. Though I get why you would make that confusion, given how you treat babysitters. And then I had to write a follow-up tweet about the similarities between how people treat their gods and how people treat babysitters. And it was amazing. But I yelled this, and then I ran into my neighbor at the Providence Poetry Slam. And I was talking about how I'm sure that I'm yelling at myself and my neighbors can hear. And I said the thing about gods and babysitters. And their response was, yeah, I heard that. And I was just in my apartment going, yes, for real. So I like being able to, I like sharing my work as I go, and I need to be held accountable. That is what helps me to maintain momentum and motivation with the effort involved. In terms of deadlines, I prefer to work at a steady pace. I plan out what I'm going to do. I plan the steps, but I don't put a deadline on the end. I plan the steps, I track the rate at which I'm getting the work done, and the rate at which I'm getting the work done in this chart then shows me the estimated time I'm going to be done with whatever leg of the journey that I'm on. So that is how I do that. Forces of Evil Book says, you're very organized for a creative mind. I find that if I were trying to put together a system for my writing, I'd spend more time maintaining that than actually writing the story. I suppose it's just whatever works for you. Yes and no. So when you're first creating the system, that takes time. But you can wrap that up in part of your preliminary planning for your writing so that it's just part of the structure. Now, what I do, like in terms of tracking everything, that's very detailed because I need the system set up in order for it to tell me what the end date is, because that's going to shift based on days that I make it to the desk to get writing done and days that I miss because of technological issues or health issues or family issues or whatever. So that's why my system is as detailed as it is. Plus, as my family likes to call it, I'm an overanalyzing. I prefer to call it world building, since I do apply this level of detail to the crafting of worlds in my fiction. So, so it's just creating a system for your writing is very personal. I used to have a much more elaborate system because some of the pieces of the system that I use now, I have cherry-picked from systems of productivity that I reverse engineered from freebies handed out by productivity experts. And, you know, whenever they're selling a course or a membership program or something, they'll put out a series of, usually, the trend right now is to put out a series of 3 videos introducing people to the work to get them interested in it and wanting to buy the larger thing. And sometimes people are very detailed in what they're giving in those videos. Some people are a little more nuanced. A lot of the steps that I have are from someone who was super detailed in those videos and has recently done a new iteration in which they step back from how much detail they've given. Maybe they've caught on to people such as myself just reverse engineering things, but I think that means that we're committed to succeeding more than some of the people who pay for that. And that's really the thing. And that's another thing about motivation, is that however much time you put into setting something up, you're going to be more invested in making sure that it works. But yeah, any system you use, it's going to be particular. I started off, in terms of being properly organized, I started off just bullet journaling. You're not going to be able to read what I have. Are you? Does OBS reverse what I'm doing? No. I write backwards in cursive, so you're not really going to be able to write. And you can tell that the cursive is backwards and nothing else because the numbers are always forward. So they're in the center margin, you see the year, and there at the start of the day, you see the number date, but my cursive is backwards. I started bullet journaling in December of 2015, and I have not stopped since, which is amazing because prior to bullet journaling, every other productivity thing that I have, calendar that I have taken from anybody, from any resource, I've only used it for 2 weeks tops. So bullet journaling is where I started. And then as I was bullet journaling and iterating on the way that I bullet journal to make it work for me, as I was doing that, and actually you can see that this is graph paper, this is grid leaf, and I actually designed that myself to make the grid the size that I wanted it to be. And then I print my own monthly review pages for my monthly calendar, and then I do a 3-column calendar spread. This is where I write forwards for quick reference because I don't automatically read things backwards. It's hypergraphia, not dyslexia. So I have the columns, and I designed these pages as well. All iterations on my bullet journaling, and this 6-column spread was actually inspired by another productivity person who was explaining how you should schedule things, like have your monthly tasks and your weekly tasks and your daily tasks, but they're just writing these blurb areas and they're not showing how to put that into a calendar. And I thought, columns just was the immediate thing that made sense. And having 6 columns, so you can only have 6 tasks in a day, then aligns with the Ivy Lee method, which is where at the end of the day, you choose the 6 things you need to get done the next day, and then you put them in order of priority, and the next day you just go through them one at a time. And that's your whole to-do list, is those 6 items. With the calendar then becomes just those methods. And so some days I have 3 items, some days I have 6 items, some days I have actually no items listed, which is good, because then I can, those are prime days to do laundry, let me tell you, prime days to do laundry. Speaking of which, I should do laundry. Yeah, so it's just what works for you, and just iterating on it a little bit at a time, because if you are spending more time on the system than the writing, then the system isn't helping you to write. And you are correct that to each their own, but having just something in place, having just at least a baseline structure to your day or a unit of time that you're working on, or just those lists of the integral tasks that you need to work on. Over here on YouTube, Paul Kemp had asked, time frame, was it you that asked? Or no, I just thought to mention it when I was answering their questions. Yeah, because the 5-year plan, live more date, like the whole how I plan what I'm going to do when I'm going to do it thing. I do have, there's a book that recently came out called High Performance Habits, and actually the chapter that I read yesterday, which is about increasing your productivity, you have to high performers, which are people who just perform consistently, who consistently have output and have that output lead to something bigger. They have 5 things that they focus on. They focus their time and their energy on 5 tasks, which is very much in keeping with the 6-item Ivy Lee method, where you're just picking those major items that are going to push the needle and push all your projects forward. And he actually shared how, because he wanted to be a writer, he went ahead and interviewed many best-selling writers to figure out, what do you do to continuously put your words out there, and also to ensure that there is an audience out there waiting for your book who wants to read it. And so he shared the 5 tasks that best-selling writers have, and it has nothing to do with workshops, and like the networking is very minimal. Like the workshops could lead to item 5, but the workshops aren't the aim. Item 5 is. And if you have to go to workshops for that, I'm just gonna tell you what some of these are. So number 1 is you finish writing the thing. Number 2 is that if you're interested in traditional publishing, you go with an agent. If you're not so interested in traditional publishing, just go ahead and self-publish. Number 3 is blog and post on social media in order to get people on your email list. Your blogging and your social media should lead to your email list, which is part of the reason today, instead of buffering the Narratemes, which leads people to my product, I decided to buffer about my website, thegoldengooseeggs.com, which is the larger project for the book that I'm currently self-publishing, 31 Days of Narratemes. And then number 4 is creating a book promotion page and offer some bonuses, which is what the Inkshares page is all about. You know, just It's there for the pre-sale, it's there for some goodies, and so I like that a lot. And number 5, which is the one I'm not currently in a position to do, but I know who I'll ask for my next book, because my next book is fiction, and I think I know some people who would be interested in reading it. And that's get 5 to 10 people who already have large lists to share your book with their lists, with the agreement that, of course, you would be, using your list to help promote their books in the future. So it's about that quid pro quo networking, but it's about a very specific kind of networking. Promote my book to your list, and when the time comes, I will promote your book to my list. So, because I'm a writer, I was very glad that he decided to share those lists of 5 big items, because it's just nice to know that there are so many things that are helpful, and do so many things and get your message out there and help you to connect with people. But at the end of the day, as a writer, you want people to read your work, and you need to know what specific tasks are actually going to get that done. So for him to say that he used to have a list of 25 to 50 items that he was all doing trying to get the book going, which is basically the list I had when he was like listing off things from it. And then he interviewed all these best-selling writers and got it down to these 5, that these were the things that they all had in common, and which all touch upon the larger list, but it really just comes down to these 5 tasks. And if you're going to do anything else off the larger list, it's because it's in service to those big items. That made me really happy. So, all the productivity and all the focusing efforts, and oh my goodness. I'm just feeling good about today, feeling good about the writing, feeling good about how on track I am with this estimated time completion. Look at this. The earliest I'll be done is the 30th, which is tomorrow. And the latest I'll be done is April 3rd. And that is for the final round of editing that's going on with this 100 days of morning writing, editing these lessons. So it'll probably, the earliest I'll be done is tomorrow, but because of the way I schedule my time, so you see, as I finish editing each item, I put a dot next to it on my bullet calendar, because these first 3 columns I use as the publication schedule / editorial calendar for my priority project. So I get 3 tasks to my priority project, and then I get 3 tasks tops for the rest of the day. And really it's more like 2 tasks because in the afternoon how much my energy drops off, I know 2 tasks is better, which gets back down to the whole 5 tasks. La-di-da. So I'm down here. This was the journaling prompt from today, and so based on how this goes, 1, 2, 3, 4-ish. So 3 days. So 30th, 31st, and the 1st. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So really I'll probably be done April 1st because of the way I have it all mapped out in my calendar here. So that is exciting to me. Let's see if there's any more comments on YouTube. Paul Kemp says, hello again. Hello again, Paul Kemp. And you are on Twitch. The last comment we have was Forces of Evil about the organization of my creative mind. Yeah, I have so many thoughts in my head. I just need to be organized. Forces of Evil book says, haha, completing a project on April Fool's. I know. I actually, here's another fun fact. For the last several years, my birthday on Facebook has been listed as April Fool's. It is not April Fool's. That is not my birthday. But it's the only April Fool's joke I have. My birthday is actually a couple of days later on the 5th. But I've had, in the past, a rough history of celebrating my birthday. It never goes right. I get my hopes so high, and I get my hopes so high, I end up crying. I end up crying because silly things. It's always something silly, but it's always at the very end of the day. It's like, all day. It's, just the breaking point of the day is when the crying happens. But the thing is, my niece's birthday actually is April 1st. She'll be turning 5 this year. Oh my God, I can't believe she's turning 5. Oh man, my niece, my goddaughter, the love of my life, is turning 5 years old. And I like to joke that my April Fool's joke got her father so bad so many times that she accidentally got herself born on my false birthday in an attempt to have the same birthday as her favorite aunt. Because I did get her father so, until Arya was born, my brother-in-law always fell for the joke. Always. He came over to the house once when I was still living with my parents, and I was up very early the morning of April 2nd, and this was before he married my sister. This was the April before they got married. And April 2nd, I know it was April 2nd because of how the story plays out. I got up early and I was tired because I'd been up late, and I went downstairs to get laundry done, and I'm messing around with the machine, and my brother-in-law to-be pops into the laundry room, and he's like, "Good morning, Rose," because he's such a chipper guy. He's like one of the sweetest, most chipper people ever. I love him so much. He pops in, like, "Good morning, Rose, happy birthday." And knowing that my actual birthday is April 5th, and being too tired to remember that the previous day was April Fool's, my immediate thought was, oh my God, how long have I been asleep? And then, which is something I actually said out loud to him, and I was like, what day is it today? It's like April 2nd, your birthday was yesterday. I said, oh, haha, no. April Fool's is just what I have on Facebook to mess with people. It's the only joke I have. Happy belated April Fool's Day, not happy belated birthday. And his response was nice. And in the last few years, since my niece was born, my sister has been very anxious with me that I have this joke on Facebook. She's wanted me very much to change the birthday. And I have not changed the birthday, but I have hidden it because I don't want people putting messages all over my Facebook wall on my birthday or my fake birthday, either way, because it's just a lot of notifications to go through, a lot of people to talk to who I never talk to because they don't actually know me well enough to know when my friggin' birthday is. And it really irritates my OCD, especially because my OCD subtype is the sinner doubter subtype, which is anchored to social anxiety. OCD is a anxiety-based condition. So, whatever your central anxiety is, that's what your OCD is really going to cling to. And yeah, April 1st will be a great day to finish editing the journal and get to formatting it into a nice little PDF. And then, silly ring. And then, making that available for sale my own way and closing out the Inkshares campaign. Luckily, I've linked to it everywhere as a bit.ly link, so I can actually do some swapping on bit.ly to have it post to the PDF version that I'll be selling when that is available. Until then. So yeah, it is now 11:44. You may have heard my phone go off a little while ago playing music, and that was one of the many alarms I have set on my phone to help me track how time is passing throughout the day, because time management isn't a thing. Time awareness is. And I'm terrible with time awareness because the obsessive of the OCD means my thoughts are constantly distracting me from being aware of time. So I have alarms on my phone, and also, more organizational fun, this is a timer. You physically set the time, and as it counts down, it tells you visually how many minutes are left. You can have it with sound or without. I choose without because the sound it makes is friggin' obnoxious. And yeah, so that's one of the other things I use to help me be aware of time passing. But that alarm going off means that I have reached, or I did reach 15 minutes ago because it's 11:45 now, I've reached the outer limit of how much time I generally like to use for the wrap-up chat. I realize, well, there's actually a lot more buffer to that now because I've done a lot of reconfiguring of how I set tasks on the timetable of my day. So, but that was like the initial warning. So now's a good time to properly wrap up and properly say good day to you all. Thank you so much for joining me and for, popping into the chat and talking to me about your projects. Forces of Evil book. Is Forces of Evil the name of the near future murder mystery you're working on? Or is that just something that you're thematically writing about usually in your books? I would like to know. Thank you, Forces of Evil book, and thank you, Paul Kemp, for joining me today and chatting with me. I'm Rose Your Music, your live stream writing accountability partner, here every day from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless something comes up. For 2 hours of live stream writing accountability, followed by these lovely wrap-up chats where you talk about what you did, I talk about what I did, and we compare notes and talk about process and how the brain works, all things that I love. I highly recommend checking out twitch.tv/Mr. Rogers because that is streaming. Oh yes, there is a Mr. Rogers Marathon streaming in celebration of his 90th birthday. And by my calculations, it will also cross over to my birthday, April 5th, which is also the birthday of one Daniel Striped Tiger. That's right, I share my birthday with Daniel Striped Tiger. Very proud of that. So thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you and talking to you in future wrap-up chats. Let's get all the writing done and just be better about our writing and just putting it out there for everyone to read. Good journey, my friends.